Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 12 of my C++ video tutorial. In this part of the tutorial, I'm going to cover operator overloading, file I/O, and I'm also going to include a problem for you to solve. All of the code as well as a transcript of this video is available in the description underneath this video, and if you haven't watched any of the previous videos, you should, otherwise you will be confused, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so here we are, and I don't believe I need any imports here. Okay, other than what I have here. I'm just using a bunch that I don't even need, but that's just to keep everybody from having weird errors because libraries aren't included. All right, so what I want to do here to demonstrate operator overloading is I want to create a custom class that I'm going to call box, and of course I'm going to create it outside of main. All right, so let's create a box class. And what I mean by, you're going to see what I mean by operator overloading. It's better to just go in here and show you examples. Okay, so I'm going to have some public things with my box. I'm going to have a length and a width and a breadth. So there's that. I'm also going to create a string inside of here. And this is going to be used to hold a string representation of our box. And I'm just going to call this box string, just give it a name. I'm also going to create a constructor inside of here, and it's just going, this is going to be, if they don't send anything, I'm just going to assign the value of 1 to everything, just be complete here. All right, so we got that. And then we're going to have another constructor that is going to be called whenever they do send something in. And let's just go and name that L and make these all doubles because that seems to make sense. And for the breadth. Okay, so we have our two constructors. And I'm just going to assign all these values all on the same line as well, just to keep everything nice and short here. And also to show you that that's something that's possible to do. All right, so we got all that set up. Let's just roll this up here and see if we can get everything in one place. Okay, so basically with operator overloading, the way it works is that you're going to be able to define custom operations just like you define functions. And you can see here a list of some different operators that you're going to be able to operate on just a single value with. So we're going to go and be able to decrement a value. You can see pointer dereference, member selections, not, and which is going to represent the address of whatever it is, and so forth and so on. So what we are going to do is we are going to take these commonly used things, operators, and we are going to define how we want them specifically to work with our boxes. Okay? So what I want to do here is I want to go and define an increment operator, and this is how you do. You're basically going to have your box right here followed by the name of operator and then whatever the operator is that you want to change. So I'm going to go and throw this inside of here. Whoops, and make sure that you define it like a function. You're going to put your two parentheses inside of there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to say whenever I have a box followed by plus plus, what it's going to do is it's going to increment the length, it's going to increment the width, and it's going to increment the breadth. Okay? And that's going to be what it does. And then, of course, it is going to return the new box back to the user. So that's how you would go and set that up if you would want to be able to create customized increment capabilities with your box class. And let's create a couple more here. Well, actually, let's create something interesting. Let's say that you would want to create a C string representation, which is, remember, a pointer to an array that is null terminated. How would you do that? Well, you'd go operator and constant and character. So that's what you're going to be referencing, that pointer right there. And then what we're going to do is create a stream that can be loaded with characters that can then be accessed as a string object. And to do that, you're going to use oStringStream, and I'm going to call this box stream. And then we can load in all of the information that we want associated with our box, string-wise. So I'm going to just say box, and what it's going to do is just list out all of the different things stored in our box. So it's going to list out our length, and then let's say we want to put like a comma and a space, and then we want to do the same thing for our width and our breadth, and we're going to get rid of this, and let's do not put a new line here, so let's just go like this. And we'll just change this to width, and we will change this to breadth. Okay, so this is a customized C string that's going to be returned to the user. But we're going to have to then go box string, and we're going to have to return a string representation of our stream. So I'm going to go box stream followed by str. And there we go. And you can see that I referenced that guy up here, and you're going to want to have this outside of any function, so you'll be able to access that. And then we need to call for return of box string, and remember that we are returning a C representation of a string. And to do that, you just go C_str, and there you are. Okay, so there's how to increment, and this is how to return a C array that is basically going to be a string. What else can we create? Well, we can decrement in exactly the same way, and you can do the same sort of things with not and so forth. So I'll just leave that for you for homework. I'm going to do a whole bunch of binary operators though for you right now. And unlike our other operators that I mentioned before, a binary operator is going to operate on two different values. So we're going to be able to add, subtract, multiply, divide boxes, modulus, check for equality, and a whole bunch of other different comparison operators. And these are the basic guys you're going to see, bitwise operators. I'm also going to go in here and show you how we can reference different items in our box as if they were arrays or they are indexed. All right, so I'm going to create a whole bunch of these. So let's say we want to add boxes together. Well, to do that, what we're going to do is, once again, same format, box operator plus. But inside of here, since we're going to be dealing with two things, we're obviously going to be working with whatever the box is, but then we are also going to get a reference to another box. So there is box 2. And what we're going to do with this guy is we're going to create a box inside of here, which is going to be the sum of said values. And then I'm going to go box sum, and length is going to be equal to, and then I'm going to go length, which is going to represent the current box that's going to be added to box 2. So I just go length to reference that guy, and box 2, and I go length once again. So that's going to basically add those values together just like we would. All right, and we can throw this inside of here, and of course we can do width, and we're going to do the same thing for width for all of these. All right, so we got that set up, and then we'll do the same thing for breadth. All right, so we're doing a good job here, and this is extremely awesome to be able to customize how these different common operators are going to work. All right, so let's do some more. I'm going to do a whole bunch of them. Let's say that we want to access values using the subscript operator, like we did with indexes, like I mentioned before. We can do that as well. So we can go operator, and then you're going to list the operator you want to work with, and then you're going to go int and x because it's going to receive a number inside of here, and then that's where it's going to go in that attribute list. Then we could say something like if x is equal to 0, in that situation, we're going to return the length, and otherwise else, and we can say if and x is equal to 1. Well, in that situation, we're going to return our width. So it's sort of operating as if it was a array. X is equal to 2. We're going to return breadth. And otherwise, if they ask for anything else, we will just say that we're just going to return 0 because they're asking for something that doesn't exist. All right, so there you go. That's how we set up our subscript operator. Let's do more. Let's say you wanted to check for equality between boxes. How would we do that? Again, you're going to go whatever you're going to be returning, the data type, and then you're going to have operator followed by whatever you want to work with. So you can do equals, and we're going to go constant, and we're going to get a reference to a box that we're going to be working with, and I'm going to call it box 2 because that's easy enough. And then I just figure out what I want to do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say if our length is going to be equal to in both of these values, well then we are going to say that that's equal as long as the width and everything else is also going to be equal. So we'll go and then I'm going to go and get this guy, throw this down the next line, paste that in there, and we'll go and do the same thing for width, and then finally come in here and get rid of this and change this to breadth and breadth. And if I'm going too fast, just go and hit the old pause button, or of course I have the code available for free in the description under the video. All right, so that's going to return true if all those three things are true or are equal, and otherwise it's not. All right, we can also check if one thing is bigger than another. So we can go, and this is just going to be relative. I'm going to say if it's less than or not. So I'm going to go constant. And after I get all these set up, I'll go and test them. It's just, we'll see how they work. So box 2 once again. And here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and get the size. So I'm going to say this size is equal to, and this of course is a reference to the box that this is going to be compared to our second operator. So there we got the size of our current box. And likewise, I'm going to do the same thing for our other box. So that's going to be box 2 in this situation, this guy that's passed inside of here. So I'm going to say box 2 size is equal to, and I'm just going to copy this, copy and paste that in there, except we're going to have to go and put box 2 in front of all these guys. So let's do that, and box 2 and box 2. All right, so now that we have those two set up that way, what we can do is we can say if this size is less than the box 2 size, well, in that situation, I'm going to return true, and otherwise, else, I am going to return false. All right, so there we go, and there's another one down. All right, you can see how quickly you can just bang these guys out. And we could go and do, of course, the exact opposite. So let's go and copy this quite easily, and let's just change this to greater than, and let's change this guy right here to greater than. There you go. Now you knocked both of them out, and I'll leave it to you to check for greater than or less than, or what I mean is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. That can be some homework you can do there just to test it out. And let's go and overload the assignment operator also. So in this situation, we don't need to return anything. So I'm going to say operator is equal to, and constant, and I'll go box. I'm going to get a reference to it, and I'm going to say box to copy is what we're going to be copying here. And then I'll just go length is equal to, and then this is going to be box to copy. And guess what? Length, so dot length, and got that set up. And then we'll just do the same thing for our width and breadth, and we will have those all set up. So you can see you can bang this stuff out really, really quickly and add a ton of functionality to your super awesome objects. All right, so there we go. All right, some neat stuff. So now what I want to do is come down in main, and let's go and create a box, and we test it. So I'm going to go and create a box. I'm going to call it box because I'm very creative, and I'm going to throw a whole bunch of 10s inside of there. And there we go. We got our box object. Now, if I want to increment it, I just go plus and box. And because I created this guy, where is it? There, this guy right here, I'm going to be able to just go box, and it's going to print out everything for me. Oops, sorry if that made you crazy. All right, so C out, and let's go and just go box. And then I'll throw a new line inside of there, and you're going to see that box indeed was incremented as long as I didn't make an error. And did I? Nope. And you can see box indeed was incremented properly. Let's go and test out our other operators. So let's go and let's create, well, we're going to need another box. So we'll go box 2, and I'm just going to create a whole bunch of 5s inside of there. And then let's go and add these guys up. So I'm going to go inside of here. I'm going to go, what do I want to say? I want to say box 1 plus box 2 is equal to, and let's just get rid of all this altogether actually. Box 1, box 2 is equal to, and then I will just go and add them together. And I can do that just by going box plus box 2. And then let's throw a new line inside of there and see if it worked. And you can see, whoops, that's not right. Let's test this out. I don't know why this didn't throw an error, but what I need to do is go and return box sum. All right, that was my error. Now let's run it again. And here you can see it went and added the values between those two boxes up. All right, so good stuff. Let's go and test out the other operators. Let's go and use our subscript operator, for example, to come in here and access the box information as if it was like an array with indexes. So let's say we want to get our length. We can do that. And all we need to do is go box and 0, and then throw a new line inside of there, and there we go. And you can see that that comes back as 11 as well. Okay, let's test the other ones. Let's say that we want to check if they are equal. And remember, if we want true or false to show up in our output with cout instead of 1s or 0s, which are not proper Boolean looking, then we have to come in here and go bool alpha like that. And then they will work like a Boolean, like you would expect a Boolean to work anyway. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to check for equality. And I'm just going to say, are boxes equal? And of course, they are not. And let's throw that there. And then just right inside of here, we will go, whoops, it's just called box is equal to box2. And then we can go and do a new line and test it. And you can see that indeed they are not equal. We can also come in here and test out if our boxes are going to be less than or greater than each other. So let's go and do that as well. So we'll say is box less than box2, and check that. And we can just go box less than box2, and then throw a new line inside of there. And let's just go and check both of those at the same time because they are basically exactly the same. And this is the only guy that's going to change. And then we can just go like this and change that as well. And what was the other one that I had? Oh, I changed the assignment operator. So I'm going to say that box is equal to box2 now. And then we can go and test that indeed that the assignment operator change that I made also is going to work out properly for us like we expect. And there we go, got them all in there, and let's run it. And you can see, was box less than box2, that came back as false. Is box greater than box2, that came back as true. And then you can see here that we were able to go and take the values in box2 and assign them to the other box. Okay, so there is a ton of information on operator overloading, and now I'd like to talk about file I/O. Now, we've already been doing a lot with streams. We've been using the I/O stream, which basically allows us to read from standard input or the keyboard and write to standard output or the console. We are going to go and include another library here, and this is going to be fstream, and this is going to allow us to work with files. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate a whole bunch of different things we can do here. I am going to, first, I'm just going to do most of this stuff in main just to keep it all in the same place. So I'm going to create a stream that is going to be used to write to our file. So I'm just going to go call it write to file. And then I'm also going to go and create another stream. And this is going to be used to read from our file. And what else are we going to need? I'm going to have text to write as well as text that we receive from our file that we create. So text to write, and I'll just give this a default nothing value in there. And then I'm going to just go and copy this, paste this inside of here. Let's move this up here. I should be able to keep everything all in the same place. And then this is going to be changed to text from file. So just text from file. All right, so let's go and get this stuff. Now basically we're going to open the file by providing the name of the file that we want to work with and then either of these different commands. And so basically if you want to append to the end of the file, you use this one. If you want to truncate, which basically means delete everything and start over, you use this one. If you want to open a file for reading, open a file for writing, open and for writing and move to the end of the file, those are all the different guides you're going to use. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do that. I'm going to go and open a file, and if the file doesn't exist, it's automatically going to be created for us, as long as you have permission, of course. And how we're going to do that is I'm going to say write to file and then followed by open. And then I'm going to list, like I said, whatever the file name is going to be. So it's going to be test and text is what I'm going to have it be. And then I'm going to list those different guys that I want to use. So if I want to open a file for writing, what I'm going to do is go ios underscore base and then out. And if I want to do more than one of those things, I just put an or statement inside of there like that. And then I can go standard ios and base and trunk. And that just means that everything that is already there, if there is anything there, is going to be deleted or truncated, however you want to say that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first check that I was able to open the file. So I'm going to go if write to file dot is and open. I don't want to do it otherwise because that means the file isn't available and that's going to cause us errors, of course. Then you can write with the stream insertion operator like you're well used to. So I can go write to file, and that's the file I'm writing to, and I can do something like beginning of file, just to throw something inside of there. I could throw a new line in there if I'd like. And then what else you can do? You're also going to be able to write information from a string, of course. There's no difference. So I could do something like telling or asking the user to input some information. So I'll say enter data to write, just to keep this, you know, interesting. So I'll go like this, and then use get line to get some user import or user input, and then we're going to store that in text to write to be saved to our file. And then I can just take that text and go write to file, and then what we want to write to it. And there we go, right? Yeah, text to write is what I called it. And there we go. All right. And then, of course, after we do all of that stuff, we need to close our file. So we're going to go write to file followed by close, right like that. Okay. All right. So we're able to write some information to our file. And if we did that, it would be valuable to be able to read it. So what we want to do is open our file for reading. And how we do that is go read from file and open, of course, and then we are going to use the same file, of course, because that's where we just wrote some information. So test, and not using a text file there. Then I'm going to go and say that I want to open it for reading, and that is iOS base, and then followed by in, and I don't need to do anything else, so I'm just going to leave it that way. Then, of course, I'm going to test if the file is open or not. So what I can do is read from file and followed with is open, just like I did previously. And if it is, then what I want to do is I want to continue reading as long as I have text in my file. So that sounds like a looping thing, and that's exactly what it is. So read from file, and good is the way that you check that you have some more information you'd like to read. And I'm just going to use get line again. So I'm going to go read from file, and text from file is where that I want to store that information. And then what I can do is I can print that text that I just received from my file, and text from file, and then I'll just print that out on the screen, and I could throw a new line in there if I'd like to. Probably be a good idea. And anything else I want to do, let me think. Well, yes, I'm gonna definitely want to close my file, so read from file followed by close, of course, and I think that will do it. Let me just save this and run it, and you can see enter data to write, and I'll just say random text here and enter, and you can see that it printed out both the beginning of the file text that I entered as well as the dynamic text that I added right there. All right, and that's a rundown of some file I/O, and now what I want you to do is try to solve a problem. All right, so I think it would be interesting for each time we receive information from the file, I want you to both print out the number of words that are in each line, and then I also want you to calculate the average word length for each of those files. So it's going to print beginning of file, for example, and then it's going to print 3 for the number of words, and then it's going to print whatever it would be for the average length of each word in the file. All right, so you can pause your video and go give that a try. Otherwise, I'm going to do it for you right now. All right, so if I am inside, I'm just going to do this inside of, what we have here already, of course. So I'm going to come right here, text from file, and start working on our problem right here. So what am I going to need? Well, I think one of the easiest things we could do is we could take each of the strings and store them as vectors. And we are very, very lucky to have created a function in the past called string2vector in a past tutorial, and that is exactly what it's going to do for us. So I'm going to come up here outside of main, and I'm actually going to put my prototype for string to vector that I made in a previous part of this tutorial series. And then once again, rather than typing it all out, here is the actual function that we created. You can see everything's been commented here. Since I covered string to vector in a previous part of the tutorial, I'm not going to cover it again. What to do? It turns strings into vectors and then returns vectors, obviously. And you can see it's heavily commented here. You can pause the screen and read about what it does, or otherwise you can just go and get the code. All right, so now we'll get into the part where I actually use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get or create a vector, and of course it's going to be full of strings. And let's just go get that and throw this right here. And what do I want to call this? Whoops. Get that P out of there. Okay, so I'm going to call this vect just to keep it nice and simple. And I'm going to call string to vector and go text from file. And then I pass in what is going to separate each of the individual strings in our string to convert them into vectors. And make sure you use single quotes here, okay? Otherwise, it will throw an error if you use double quotes. Then what did I say I wanted to do? Well, I wanted to get the number of words in each line. So I'm just going to call this words in line. And how do I get that? I just call size on our vector. All right, easy enough. Well, I might as well just print that information out because it's here already for us to work with. So I'll say words in line and then output the number of words that I have. So words in line and throw a new line inside of there. All right, so that was pretty easy. I got my number of words per line. Now for the hard part, I want to go and figure out the average number of characters per word. Well, I'm going to have to store the total number of characters for each of the individual words. So that's what I'm going to do in that one. Then what I'm going to do is just go for auto and word, and I'm going to get each individual word out of each of the vector that we have inside of that. And then inside of this, I can go auto once again and get each of the individual letters. So there we go, pretty snazzy stuff. And then I can just increment character count as I cycle through both of those guys. Now that I know the number for the number of characters, what I can do is I'm going to create another variable, and it's going to be average num of characters is going to be equal to character count divided by words in line. And then I got it. I got all the information that I need, and I can just output that on our screen once again. And I can go average word length and get this. And that's just average, num of characters. Okay, and then throw in a new line, and I was able to, in just a couple lines of code, get all of that information. And is there anything else I need to do? Not as far as I can tell. So let's save it and run it. And enter data to write, and I'm just going to go random words and stuff. And you can see beginning of file, number of words in the line is 3, and that's indeed correct. Average word length is 5. Random words and stuff, words in line 4, and average word length is 4. Okay, so hopefully you guys got that problem correct. If you didn't, don't worry about it. And like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.